Good evening. Wow. Okay, we're on. I guess everybody can hear me. Well, it's 7 o'clock, and that's when we're supposed to start, so we're going to start on time so we can move along. We're going to move through this a little quicker than we would normally. We'd normally spend some time going through some different things, but we're going to move through it quicker just so that we have more time in the classroom, because when you're moving around classrooms, we're going to need cleaning time in there too. So a little bit of what everybody's going through during the day. So what we're going to do is open with prayer. So let's pray. Oh, Lord God in heaven, we do thank you for this day. We thank you that we can be here together on campus and that we can learn more about you, worship you, and just fellowship in your name. And just pray that you would be with us, that you would watch over us through this year, that you would... We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. So, and we're going to have to forward the first slide, Kristen, for me to get it going. Down in the bottom right-hand corner. There you go. Little arrow. She's blind. It's the one down there in the bottom left-hand corner. Oh, we got it. It's going. Okay. So what we're going to do tonight is kind of go through purpose, talk a little bit about loving one another. A year unlike others, which is where we are right now. Then talk a little bit about the Health Check app. I know some of you probably already have it loaded. I'm going to walk, and if you watch the video, you get to see the video. Well, you're not see the video. You can see it live this time. And then Jim Kerr will get up and talk to you and kind of give you the final instructions and lead you on the way after that. So we've already prayed. I always like to start with our mission statement and remind ourselves of why we are here, okay? And, of course, the mission of Grace Christian School is to assist Christian parents, and that's you. So we're here to walk alongside you, to partner with you, to help you in the education of your children. God holds you responsible for the education as parents, and me as a parent of my children. And so our goal is to walk with you, partner with you, and help you raise them up. And we do that through, of course, sound academic education, and we do have a good sound academic education here, and in a Christ-centered environment. And that's what really sets us apart from most of the other educational opportunities that are out there. And, of course, why are we doing this? Well, we're doing it to prepare your children, your young adults, I guess, really at this point, to know God and to live in obedience to His will for their lives. So that's the long-term goal. And even as important as academics is, and academics is very important, and there's no reason good academics don't go well with, Christian worldview and faith. In fact, they go together very well. But our primary goal, we always have to remember, is to bring our students to know and love Jesus Christ, because that's eternal. Everything academic is short-term when you think about it. So that's why we're here. That's why hopefully you're here, and we're here together. So love one another. Now, this is something that I've told our faculty and staff and started off with our students, and I'll go ahead and just read these two verses. John 13. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. So this is Jesus talking to his disciples and talking to us, that we are to love one another. And that's how the outside world will know who we are, that we belong to Jesus Christ. And in Ephesians, Paul writes, I therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. And the reason I shared this with the faculty and staff and with our high school students this morning is, we live in a world right now which is very hateful. And what happens is if you disagree with somebody, you're evil, you're bad, you hate me. And that's immediately where and they start calling you names. But that's not what Christ calls us to be. Christ calls us to love one another. And so, through all of this, and this year is hard enough that as even, parents and a Grace Christian community, we need to love each other through differences. And we do have differences, and that's okay. We need to have unity and love one another. And like I said, I emphasize this with the high school and with the middle school students today. And we'll continue to emphasize that with them. So this is something that's going to be necessary to get us through the year unlike others, which is where we are right now. The COVID challenge, which has been, the gauntlet's been thrown down in front of us. We have training requirements, which we did with our faculty and staff and with your students today, just talking to them about what COVID is, how, what precautions they can take, what it looks like. So you'll get a little bit of that in just a little while. We are cleaning and disinfecting, and like I said, you guys are going to get a little taste of that tonight, because when you finish in a desk, we're going to ask you to clean your desk up and disinfect it. And I forgot to say, by the way, we do have a rule here with the kids that if they are sitting in their seat, distance from the others, they can drop their mask. So if you want to, you can do that. If you're comfortable, if you don't want to take it off, we love you anyway. So cleaning and disinfecting, we do have that happening all the time, and it's going to continue to happen. Masks, and the same rule will apply for you as it applies for the kids tonight, that as you're moving around in the common areas or in the bathrooms or between classes, that you wear your mask, please. And then when you're in the class and you are sitting in the seat, you can take your mask off if you're comfortable with doing that. That's okay. So this is what 9th through 12th grade students, they're expected, just what I said right there. Once sitting in the desk, they can remove their mask. There are some room exceptions to that. And we do have a couple rooms where it's like we just couldn't get the spacing that we needed, which we looked at 4-foot spacing as the minimum, and we just couldn't get it. So if they're less than that, they had to keep their masks on during the day in those classrooms. We are going to give masks to your students tomorrow. They'll get one. Looks like this, so they can walk around. The only thing I asked them was please not rob any banks while they're wearing this. So, if you take your child's mask, please do the same. Or if you're driving with your mask on, don't do anything that draws attention to you. So, because then everybody will know. Well, they won't know who you are, but they'll know who we are. So, and with risk mitigation, we've looked at different things and really gone out of our way to try to do some things to reduce the risk. And that's really what we're looking to do, because we can't zero the risk. I mean, if we could, there's one way to do it. Don't get out of bed. Okay? If you don't get out of bed, your chances are pretty good that you won't get it. Although it's interesting because New Zealand had it wiped out supposedly, and they've got it back. My wife was reading about a lady who never left her house, and she got it. So, we have to trust in the Lord for this. And so, again, love each other. And, the local paper puts this teacher's name on the front page as having COVID like it's a badge of shame. It's like getting the flu. And I'm not comparing COVID with flu, but I'm saying it's the same thing. I mean, you're not doing anything risky, and you can still get it, and yet you end up being shamed by it. So again, we're going to love each other through it, and prayerfully, we live in the valley for a reason, okay? And hopefully that's going to carry through for us. But with some of the risk mitigation, we have put HEPA air filters with little air purifiers in all the high school rooms, and by next week they'll be in all the elementary and middle school rooms too. This building, in case you didn't know, does draw air from the outside for the air conditioning system, which is something that is a positive. So that's good too. The water fountain you see out there that has the signs on it, we're actually going to replace that one and one in each, or two in the elementary school and in the other buildings, with water bottle fillers that you can just go and leave under there and it'll fill up. Health check app. Now, you guys were pretty efficient this morning. The elementary, of course, has more people going through a little more space, and they were backed up pretty good. And, that's one of the reasons we're going with the Health Check app. And if you haven't seen it, you're going to need to load it, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Well, actually, with it, we sent out the Warrior Bulletin. If you didn't look at it, you need to load up the health app. Now, with high schoolers, if your child has a smartphone, you can make them put it on their phone and make them answer the questions every morning. The only thing you need to do is make sure they take a temperature. And I say this because almost all the temperatures now seem to be up here. Used to be there or here, but now they're there. They need to take a temperature and put that in. We're doing today and tomorrow kind of optional, but Monday it's going to become mandatory. And what that does is that means our faculty and staff doesn't have to be out in the parking lots asking 12 questions and taking temperatures out there, which is nice. This morning was beautiful, so that was okay, but the rain and the snow and the nasty weather's coming. So what we will do is have all the students coming in through the downstairs, and we're going to actually have a temperature sensing camera down there that will look at them and can tell within a half a degree what their temperature is, and that's just going to serve as a backup for us, because the health app is really the first line of defense for us. Now, why do we have to do this? And the hard part with COVID is it can look like many different things. So if you look up there, it has all the symptoms of COVID, and that's not all of them, but this is what people have. And some people have one, some people have three, some people have all of them, and some people have none. And the problem is, it can look like strep throat, it can look like a common cold, it can look like the flu or asthma or season allergies. And that's the problem. It looks different for every person. So that's why with the Health Check app, it asks 12 questions, and a lot of them are going through these things, and why we had to go with the more conservative approach in terms of getting checks and making sure that everybody's healthy coming in. Now, I'm hoping that this will actually be a very healthy year for us. This may even keep the flu down, and which would be nice for us also, and colds and other things. So we can hope and pray for that. So this is one of the reasons, like I said, that we have to go with this, because it's deceptive. You can't tell, and really the COVID test is usually the way that you determine it. Okay, so here we have our daily decision tree. Now, what you need to do is print this out, put it on your refrigerator, and if your child gets anything but a green screen, this is what you need to come look at. Okay, so I'm going to kind of step away here, and I'll talk a little bit, and I'll come over here. So every day you put your data in, and you put it in, that's the little blue square up here. It says put your data in right here. If it comes up with the little green stripe on it, that's great. Come to school. And actually, for most of us, most of the time, that's what we're going to get. We just come to school on the green screen. Now, if you get the yellow screen, what you're going to do is you have to then ask this question here. Have you been diagnosed with COVID within the last 14 days? If the answer is no, okay, have you been exposed? And this is directly exposed to someone with COVID in the last 14 days. Okay? Now, let's say with Mr. Kerr, he comes down with COVID. And we've spent time together, and they say for 15 minutes within 6 feet of each other. I'm directly exposed to him. Okay? So then he's going to be quarantined make sense to everybody? Okay. So that's how it works with in terms of, this question. So with it diagnosed with COVID, no. Exposed to COVID, yes. Stay home. You're quarantined. If your answer is no and no, you come over here and says, do you have 100.4 temperature or other symptoms? Are you sick? If you're sick, you need to be symptom-free for 24 hours without medication before you come back to school. And that sounds familiar. Now the difference between this year and last year, like we had a basketball player last year who really wanted to play in the game. So he took medicine, so he could come to school, because if he knew he stayed home from school sick, he couldn't play in the game. Okay? Well, we can't do that this year. So, even if your student is borderline, please keep them home. Don't send them in. It just makes everything better. Please. Okay, so if symptom-free for 24 hours, yes, return to school. No, stay home until you get better. Then the next day you'll come in, boom, here you are, and you're ready to start again. So you start this each and every day. So we come down, and let's say you are diagnosed with COVID. Yes, you're in quarantine until you have no more symptoms, and you either have to have no symptoms for 24 hours, or you have to have a COVID test, negative COVID test, to come back. Okay? So, now, the dreaded red screen. You get the red screen. What do you do? Okay, well, you go, your doctor's, and telemedicine is getting very popular, and this is probably how they're going to do this. So with that, you will contact your physician. They're probably going to say you need a COVID test. Now, if they know you and they say, no, you don't need a COVID test, you don't have COVID, you have this, okay. We just need a clearance from them that you're good to come back. Then we just jump right over to, do you have 100.4 or greater, or other illnesses? Well, the doctor just said probably no, but if he said, again, my example, pink eye. Oh, you have pink eye. Well, stay home until you're ready to come back to school. But if he says you're ready to come back to school, you can come back to school. If you take the COVID test and it's negative, you ask these other questions, and again, go up. Now, we do have this little branch up here, a no physician option. Because we have some people that just don't want to do the physician. Well, this comes from CDC and PDH, Virginia Department of Health. Households quarantined for 14 days and 24 hours symptom-free. So you've got to have both of those if you don't do the physician route. Okay? I have to talk in the microphone. I'm sorry. Okay, well, I'm finished running through that anyway. If you have any questions on that, I'll be happy to answer those for you. Like I said, you just need to print this out, put it on your refrigerator, and just track it through each day. And as long as it's a green screen, not a problem. Okay? Now for kids, it's not as big a deal, but, if for some reason they lifted weights really hard one day and their muscles are sore, well, that's one of the questions. Do you have muscle ache? Well, I'm not opposed to them saying, yeah, I know exactly what that's for. Okay. But I'll leave that up to your judgment. And we have some kids who will automatically answer yes no matter what because that's the way they are. But it's okay too, because if that's the only thing they have, they get a yellow screen for it. They ask those two questions. They come around. Do they have any other symptoms? No. Okay, come to school. Okay? Clear as mud. Good. Therefore, if you have any other questions, like I said, I'll be around. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Kerr, our new high school principal. Just as a background, as he's walking up here, we did publish it out, but if you didn't see it, he has been in education basically his whole life except for the past couple years. So he started off as a teacher. In fact, I know one of his old bosses, so I called her and talked to her, and she said that he was actually the favorite teacher on campus that all the kids came back to see. That he was very hard, but they loved him anyway. And after that, he became a dean of students and a principal, so he has a lot of experience. Coming into this job for the last couple years, he's been the executive director at the Crisis Pregnancy Center in Salt Lake City, which is good because that adds different dimensions and adds a depth to his thinking. And I will say that with all that we've had to do with COVID right now, if he wasn't around, I wouldn't be standing before you right now. I would probably be in a mental institution right now. So with that, I'll hand it off to Jim, and if you get a chance, you can spend time talking to him.
Thank you for coming out tonight, and thank you for those who are joining us virtually. I want to introduce to you, if they're here, they may not be down here because they're up in their classrooms or down in their classrooms, but some of the other new teachers that are joining me this year. So Miss Godet, are you here? Yeah, Miss Godet is joining us in the science department, teaching sophomore biology, right? Okay. And then Miss Kerr, is she here? No, she's helping out. So yes, my daughter. She is a student teacher in the social studies department. And then Mrs. Kilmer is not here. She's busy. Well, Mrs. Kilmer is here, but the other Mrs. Kilmer, who is joining us and doing some math, some science, and also helping us in the CARES program. Ms. Kochka is our most recent addition. Now, she has been at GCS before, but she's coming back to help us with the art department. So with that, we can do Art 1 and the advanced art elective. And Ms. Ergo over here, and she's joining us in the language arts department. Okay? And you'll be meeting all of our returning teachers also tonight, those of you that are here with us physically. Okay, so I'm skipping these, and I'm skipping that. So, not to repeat much of what Dr. Larson shared with us about the COVID-19, but how does that play out here kind of a day-to-day is what I'm going to go through. So one of the things we talked with your students about is, yes, the mask is getting the big attention, but just simple hygiene is an important step, okay, in trying to prevent it, you getting it and spreading it to others. So we talked through that with them. When necessary, going to the medical professionals is an important part of the response. Mask is an important part. Now, I will tell you, I was pleasantly, not surprised, but very pleased when I got up here and I was looking at them all and they had their masks on. We had 100% of our high schoolers with their masks on, okay? Now, we are aware of some students who, for medical reasons, will need to take breaks from that or may not be able to, but great participation, and obviously our parents talking to our students was a big part of that. Now we've got to keep the momentum going, okay? And that'll be the challenge. The distancing, right? That's a huge issue, and that's where I've been spending tons of time figuring out, okay, what can we do in each classroom to get at least 4 feet of separation? And when we can't get at least 4 feet of separation, what will we do? What will the protocols be? How will we communicate that? Okay? So here, it looks like a simple layout. It took a while to figure out what we might be able to do, and then taking the plan and actually putting it into practice took a couple hours setting up. And you might say, well, what's the whole double chair pile up? That's so we can simply disassemble and then get ready for the church and then the format they want. Okay? And then we will be doing all study halls. So here's something that you should take note in your class schedules you have. You're from first period all the way to 5B. So what we normally would do on a Wednesday. We're not doing any 6-period electives tonight. That said, if your son or daughter's schedule says you have a study hall in a room, that's not true anymore. It's up here, right on this side. Okay, so any study hall periods 1 through 5B are here. We will correct those class schedules and get them out to the students on Monday. Okay? Now, the other thing that we've done is we have expanded the between period. So usually it's 4, now we expanded it to 8. That gives us time to, after each period, clean off all of the used surfaces, commonly used surfaces, all the desks. Our teachers do that job. Now tonight we have a lot less numbers So that can happen a little bit more sooner. But parents, be ready. Our teacher might ask for some volunteers to help us real quick so we can keep things going tonight. Then the other thing that happened, wrong way. Okay, the other thing then to know is we are going to be doing events in COVID-19 responsible ways, but still trying to capture the essence of that event as much as we can. So Great Escape will be happening next Thursday, the 27th. You should expect information coming to you Monday evening about that, the details. But the highlight is there's no academics. You need to drop off your students at Church of the Hill. You'll be able to drop them off as early as 7:30. We will be ending the evening at 7:30. Okay, those are the basics. You'll get the more details, like I said, Monday evening. Well, we are still planning on doing the senior trip, which is usually in May, but we still are planning it. So we don't know for sure we're doing it, but we're moving to still do it. Okay, that also, we have the seniors this Monday who are going on not an overnight retreat, but we're still doing something special with them this Monday. So they're not having academics this Monday. The DC trips, we're not going to be doing them in November for multiple reasons. But we're hoping that we'll be able to do it in either very late winter, early spring. Again, not for sure, but we're trying to plan for that, see if we can do it in responsible ways and still have the experience. All right, we're not going to talk about that right now. Okay, you can turn it off, please. So I just want to highlight a few other things for you. I already mentioned the study halls. So room numbers, especially those of you where this is kind of your first time in this building. If you look at the first digit in the room number, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, those are our floors. So we are on the second floor. First floor, or what some people call the basement, is obviously down. Second is right here. The only room is kind of through that hallway. Third and fourth floors are up above us. Okay? As you go up these stairs to get to those, if you're going to 301, you hang a left. If you're going to 302 or 303, you hang a right. And 303 is actually, you got to go through 302 to get to 303. Okay, so you won't see any numbers for 303. Go through 302 to get 303, which also means don't dawdle because you'll be embarrassed to have to walk through 302 if you're a little bit late. Okay? And then the other thing I wanted to mention to you is tomorrow. So again, another early dismissal, 12:12. If possible, and you can delay your arrival till maybe about 12:30, that will help us spread things out. That'll be great for traffic. It'll also be great for COVID-19 purposes. Arrival, you can drop your student off as early as 7:30, whether you need that to get to work or you have to drop off here and over at the middle school and elementary, whatever the reason, it doesn't matter. You can drop off as early as 7:30 here. The more people we can get dropping off 7:30, 7:45, the better. All right, we've gone over time and we need to get going with the schedule. So you're looking at your first period, and that's where you're headed right now, and we'll be going almost every 5 minutes. Go forth and conquer. Thank you. It doesn't matter. On Wednesdays, we do both